Today, we're diving into the life of a man whose faith was so demanding it literally led him from the pulpit to a plot to kill Hitler. This is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a theologian who proved his most powerful ideas were worth dying for.
And this is where we have to start. This single, chilling sentence from Bonhoeffer himself. You have to understand, he wasn't being metaphorical here. For him, this was a literal description of what faith required, and it set the stage for a life of just incredible conviction.
So right away, we're hit with this huge paradox, right? How does a guy like this, a brilliant theologian, a pastor who preached peace, end up as a key figure in a conspiracy to assassinate Adolf Hitler? Well, the answer starts with a deep spiritual crisis he saw happening all around him.
You see, Bonhoeffer looked around at the German church of his time, and he saw a profound sickness. It was this comfortable, state-approved Christianity that really demanded nothing from its followers. And he gave this sickness a name.
He called it cheap grace. And get this, in his mind, the biggest enemy of the church wasn't Nazism, it wasn't secularism, it was this watered-down faith. He saw it as a poison, corrupting everything from the inside out.
To really get what he's saying, you have to look at this contrast he sets up. On one side, you've got cheap grace. It's forgiveness without repentance, kind of like a get-out-of-jail-free card that costs you absolutely nothing. But then there's costly grace. It's still a free gift, don't get me wrong, but it's the kind of gift that demands your entire life in response. It requires absolute obedience, no matter what.
And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? For Bonhoeffer, it was simple. You cannot separate what you say you believe from what you actually do. A faith that doesn't fundamentally change how you live isn't just incomplete, it's a totally different religion, one that has pushed Christ right out of the picture.
Okay, so if cheap grace is the disease, what's the cure?
Well, for Bonhoeffer, the answer was to drag faith out of the clouds of abstract philosophy and plant it firmly in the messy, real world of human relationships.
Now, you got to remember, Bonhoeffer was this brilliant academic, right? He was steeped in all the dense philosophy of his time, which often tried to find God somewhere inside the individual's own mind. But he eventually saw this as a total dead end. Trying to find God by just looking inward from the perspective of the isolated I was just a recipe for getting lost.
So here's his big idea, his solution, which he actually developed pretty early on. Sanctorum communio. It means the communion of saints, which is really just another way of saying the church. And this part is wild. He argued that Christ isn't just some abstract idea you think about. Christ is a living reality that actually exists as the church. The community of believers isn't just an organization that talks about Christ, it is Christ, present and active in the world.
And that just completely changes where you look for God, right? Suddenly, God's revelation isn't in a system of thought or a philosophy book. It's found in the living, breathing connections between people. God is, as he put it, in the personal reference from one person to another.
And here's where he makes it incredibly personal. He's basically saying that true, genuine human community is impossible on our own. We can only truly connect to each other through Jesus Christ. He's the mediator, the glue that makes real brotherhood possible. Our bond isn't based on who we are, but on what Christ has done for all of us.
Okay, so if faith is only real when it's lived out in community, what does that life actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon? This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where costly grace stops being a cool concept and starts being a set of very concrete, very difficult, life-altering demands.
Bonhoeffer lays it out almost like a four-step journey. First, it starts with single-minded obedience, just trusting Christ's word over anything else the world offers as security. That leads to step 2. You have to deny yourself, to shift your whole focus off of you and onto Christ. From there, you take up your cross, which means accepting that suffering will be part of the deal. And the final step, you just follow. You leave it all behind and you follow him.
He uses that famous story from the Bible about the rich young ruler to hammer this point home. Look, Jesus' call isn't a suggestion. It's not an invitation to a debate. It's a fork in the road. It confronts you with a simple, radical choice: obedience or disobedience. There is no middle ground, no third option.
And this is where it all comes crashing back to Bonhoeffer's own life. Because for him, this wasn't just some academic theory he wrote about in a book, it was the script for his own life, a script he followed all the way to the very end.
Just look at how this played out in his final years. It's this rapid, terrifying escalation. In 1937, he publishes his big book, and boom, the Gestapo immediately shuts down his seminary. Then in 1939, he gets a golden ticket out, a safe post in America. But he makes the fateful choice to return to Germany, to go back into the fire.
The consequences are swift. He's banned from preaching, then arrested in 1943, and finally executed, just weeks before the war even ended. And this is the thing you absolutely have to grasp to understand him. His decision to go back wasn't a political move, it was a theological one. I mean, think about it. How could he preach about costly grace and taking up your cross from the safety of New York City while his community, his people, were suffering at home? He couldn't. His own beliefs gave him no other choice. He had to go back.
And in his final moments, we have this unbelievable testimony from the doctor at the concentration camp. He witnessed a man whose faith was no longer an idea but a complete reality. He describes seeing a man so certain, so at peace, so submissive to God's will, even in the face of death. This was it. This was the final step of discipleship.
So in the end, Bonhoeffer's entire life became the answer to the question that drove his work. What is the cost of grace? For him, it cost everything. And it leaves us all with a pretty challenging question to think about, doesn't it? What, if anything, does our own faith truly cost us?